Hi everyone, this is Umar from Infinix Learning. Welcome to this video. Today we are going to learn how to make this very simple mortgage payment calculator in Microsoft Excel. In this calculator, I am trying to use some of the very interesting features of Excel. One of them is the built-in drop-down lists. So as you can see over here, the user can select the down payment by this drop-down instead of typing the down payment in by the keyboard. As the user changes the amount of down payment to this drop down, the installment amount automatically changes. The other interesting thing in this calculator is the use of data validation to control the input the user is able to make. For example, I want my period, my number of years for the mortgage, to be between 5 and 30. If the user is entering a number which is not between 5 and 30, I want the Excel to throw an error. So for example, in this sheet, if the user tries to enter 31, Excel will throw an error and tell him or her that please enter a whole number between 1 and 30. And if I enter a number between 5 and 30, then there is no error. This ensures that we control the user's input in certain cases so our Excel files do not break down. So in this video, we will learn how to make these drop-down cells, and we will learn how to use data validation by using some predetermined criteria. Okay, so I have a blank Excel sheet. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's put our title, which is Mortgage Payment Calculator. And then we will put our property value field over here. Let's increase the column size of this column a little bit. Below the property value, we have our mortgage amount, which is the amount of mortgage the user is willing to take. And then we have our down payment. So essentially, let's say our property value is $800,000. Let's format this number. The mortgage amount should be a function of your property value. So as an example, if your down payment percent is 25%, the mortgage amount is 75%. To get 75% by using the formula, I will open the brackets. I will type in 1 minus this cell. This will give me 75%. So whatever I pay as down payment, which is 25%, remaining leftover amount is going to be the amount which I will mortgage or get a mortgage from the bank. That is 75%. And what is this amount in dollars? It is basically 75%. So this formula times the property value. And this is the mortgage amount, but obviously this is in percentages. Let's convert this into dollars, and here you go. So if I have a down payment of 25% on a property of $800,000, my mortgage amount is $600,000. If I change this to 10%, my down payment becomes lower. As you can see, my mortgage amount becomes higher. Hope this makes sense. Then we have our interest rate, which basically is the interest we are going to pay on this mortgage. Let's say the interest is 2.79%. Then what we will need is our period. This is the number of years for which the mortgage is for. Your years have to be between 5 to 30. So I want my number of years of the mortgage to be between 5 and 30 years. And then payment type. Now payment type is an interesting thing in the banking world. Generally in loans like mortgages, the installment you pay is in advance, which means as soon as the loan begins, you will pay the first installment. You will not wait for the first month to pass to pay the installment. So it is not in arrears. It's paid in advance. And I'll explain more why we need this variable later in the video. So I'll put BEG, which is short for beginning. And let's put the period to 30 for now. Okay, let's make this left oriented. Yeah. Now let's calculate our installment amount. Now Microsoft Excel has a built-in formula to calculate the installment amount for amortized loans like mortgages, and that formula is called the PMT formula. It's called the PMT formula. Let's open the brackets, and as you can see, this formula has 5 inputs or 5 arguments. The first argument I have is rate. Rate basically is your interest rate, which is right over here. So I will put this amount here. Then you have the NPER, which is the number of years of your loan or your mortgage, which is this cell C9. So I will put C9. Then you have your PV, which is short for present value. It is the amount of loan you are going to take. That amount is over here, mortgage amount. Now you have to be careful because this is the amount you're going to take. It has to be entered as a negative value. So minus sign, and then you click on cell C5, which is your mortgage amount. The next argument you have is FV, which is the future value. This is the value of loan left after your amortization term, after your 30 years is over. Now generally in a case of a mortgage or a loan, the amount left after the period ends is 0, which means in 30 years you will end up paying your entire mortgage amount. So this amount is actually 0. Future value of this loan is 0 because you have paid it all along your installments. So 0. Finally we have type. Now type is what we were talking about before, the payment type. It can either be the end of period 0 or it can be the beginning of period 1. For a loan like mortgage, generally the type of the loan is the beginning of period. The first installment you pay to the bank is normally taken as soon as you are given the loan. You can set it to either. That's why I have put an input option over here. I will have to type in either 1 or 0 over here. Let's type in 1. Let's format this number. As you can see, my installment amount is $34,000 for a mortgage amount of $720,000 at this interest rate for 30 years. Now as you can see, this amount is a bit on the higher side, and it's higher because it's an annual amount. To convert this amount into a monthly amount, how much installments you will pay monthly, what you can do is you can change your formula slightly, or you can change the inputs in your formula slightly. You can press F2 to go back in the formula. The first argument was rate. Now this rate you are supplying in this formula is an annual rate of your mortgage. If you want a monthly installment amount, you have to change this rate into a monthly rate as well, which is basically 2.79 divided by 12 months. So now this becomes a monthly rate. Similarly, for the period, number of years, to change this to number of months, what you will have to do is multiply by 12. So 30 years times 12 months in a year will give you the total number of months as period for your formula. That's about it. Once you have these two variables changed, you're good to go, and your installment amount should be in months. Yes, now you have $2,948 as your installment amount for a property of $800,000 with a mortgage of $720,000. One last thing before we learn how to make drop downs is I want to change my installment amount as I change my beginning type variable. Now I can either have a payment type set at beginning as we have seen before, or we can have it set as end, which means you can either pay installments at the beginning of the loan. So as soon as the loan is issued to you, you can pay the installments, or you can pay your installments at the end of the period, which means at the end of the month starting the first month. Most banks or institutions for mortgages will give you the beginning of period loan types, which means your first installment is due as soon as the loan is issued. But I want this calculator to be able to work in both the situations. So what will I do is, I'll go over here, press F2, I'll change the last argument of my formula, and instead of just typing 1, which as you can see actually stands for beginning of the period, I will place an if formula over here. So I'll type in if, I'll open the brackets, I'll say if my payment type, my cell C10 is equal to, in quotation, BEG. So what I'm saying is, if this cell is equal to BEG, then I want the value of 1 to be used in this formula. Else, if this is not equal to BEG, then I want the value of 0 to be used in this formula. Bracket close. This is how the if function works. If you want to know more details and learn about if formula in more details, please click on the link in the description for my video on if formula. So once I have my formula complete, I will type in enter. Now I can change this BEG to end, and as you can see, my installment amount automatically changes. I can change it back to BEG beginning, and it goes back to 2948. So now that we have a calculator working, let's make it more user friendly by introducing the drop downs and data validation. Let's delete this. Let's first learn how you can make a drop down list in the payments type. To make a drop down list in a cell, you have to go to the data tab in your menu, and you have to click data validation right over here. You have to go to settings if you're not already there. In the allow section, click the drop down and select list. You are telling Excel that you want a list in your data validation. In the source field over here, type the items which you want to be shown in your drop down list. Let's say I want to show BEG and END. BEG and N, and you can segregate the items in your list by comma. I have typed in both the options I want to show in my list, and that's it. Click OK. Here you go. Your drop down list is made. You have BEG and you have N. You can select either one of those, and as you can see, your installment amount will change accordingly. The next thing I want to do is I want to make a similar drop down list for the down payment. So let's click on the down payment field over here, cell C7. Let's go to data and let's go to data validation. Again, in the validation criteria, you select list. In the source, you type in the numbers or the items you want to show in your drop down list. So I want to show 5%, I want to show 10%, I want to show 15%, I want to show 20%, and finally I want to show 25%. You click in OK, and your drop down list is ready. As you can see, you can easily change the values in your drop down list and your installment amount would automatically change. Once I have my drop down list ready, I can move ahead and I can introduce some data validation in my calculator. For example, one validation I want to introduce is I want to make sure the user does not enter less than 5 years or more than 30 years in this cell, because my bank only allows a mortgage to have a period of 5 to 30 years. So how can we do that? This is also called data validation. To do that, select this cell, go to data and select data validation over here. Now what I want to do over here is I want to open, and since the loan period I am going to give to my customers is only going to be a whole number, which means it can be 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. It cannot be 1.5 or 5.6 years. I will select whole number over here. This means in the allow category, I am only allowing whole numbers to be inputted in this cell. In the data, I want my data to be between 5 and maximum value is 30. So I want this cell to have a value which is a whole number between 5 and 30, minimum value 5 and maximum 30, and I click on OK. That's it. Now if I have a value which is less than 5 or more than 30, I should get an error. Let's give it a try. Let's try to enter 31. And here you go, I got an error from Excel. Another good thing about Excel is you can customize this error window you see. So let's see how we can do that. Let's go back to data and data validation. You have your criteria over here. Let's go to error alerts. This is where you can customize the error window you see. So you can select the style of the window from over here. So you can have a stop sign, a warning style, which is an exclamation mark, or you can have an information sign like you have it over here. I think personally this is a stop sign case. In the title is basically this title you will see in the error window. I want to say incorrect period, and in the error message I want to tell the user please enter a value between 5 and 30. Press OK. Now if you enter a value which is outside the range, you will get a customized error, incorrect period. Please enter a value between 5 and 30. Retry, and now I will enter 25. Here you go. It has accepted my value. Finally, there is one more thing I want to do. I want to make sure the user cannot enter a negative interest rate over here. I will introduce a similar data validation. So I'll go to data validation. In the settings tab, I will select decimal because the interest rates can be in decimals. I will select greater than. I want my interest rate to be decimal only, and it should be greater than 0. In the error alert, I want to say incorrect interest rate, and the message I'm going to say please enter a positive value. That's it. Okay. If I try to enter a negative value over here, I will get an error. And my calculator is now complete. Once your calculator is complete, you can probably do some formatting. And your calculator is now ready. I will see you in the next video. Thank you.